That's a good point to bring up too, because I do feel like in this space, especially, it probably is pretty common that people are either coming from another solution that didn't work out, coming from a situation with a carrier where they weren't getting the connection they needed, or maybe they're coming to Tilt because they've made a mistake and they need a solution in place so they, can protect themselves and their employer moving forward. But in particular, can you think of a situation in which there was a customer that came over maybe from another solution that you could tell was like very weary and afraid to turn over the ship, for lack of a better word, and kind of how you remedied that?
Yeah, I have a few of them, and there still are. They're still like holding on to their trauma and not letting it go,
Yeah.
but very much so for good reasons. There are some customers that oftentimes they always want to give their vendors, so to speak, benefit of the doubt. But when you are not seeing that not just so much the relationship, but the employee experience is being managed the way it should, that's where it becomes a strain. Like the HR person could love what that product's doing. But if it's not hitting the mark with their employee, because remember, that's one of the two biggest things as to why customers will come to Tilt, then that creates some, broken foundation. With some customers that have come to us for those reasons and how it's been to like build that relationship, it's hard. You have to roll up your sleeves and ensure that the customer's feeling supported, that they're actually making the best decision for their employees and walking them through how we're going to support them to ensure that employees feel confident. Sometimes it's us, creating some videos that they would share with their employees on how to manage their leave in the system. That's not unusual, but it is like a one-off because oftentimes our resources in our help center provide self-service. So there are videos, there are trainings, but if you really want to make sure that customer feels that they're connected to Tilt, not just from the fact that we're a vendor, but that partnership is there, you have to build that trust from the ground up. And sometimes you have to ask them the hard questions about the traumas that they're coming to us with to making sure that they feel confident that we're going to not be the repeat of what that was. I had a customer recently that we're still working through a lot. They've been a customer with us since late November. In that time, they lost their payroll person and I believe they lost the person who onboarded. So now the person who we're working with is an HR business partner. Not a large company by all means. They'll probably have around maybe 200 employees altogether. And this person never knew what Tilt was. So now they've become the payroll person to review that their leaves are being actually managed the way they should be, and that the payroll calculations are being managed correctly. But they're also now reviewing benefits. So like on top of all the things that is under your umbrella, we have to really say, okay, what's the heavy lift that we can take off your plate from a leave management perspective to help you feel more comfortable? And if you're in doubt around something relevant to your payroll, their pay calculations, what can we do? Whether it's having a support person from whether it's Rippling or someone from our payroll team to review that information so that you see it clearer. Does it mean that we have to build a custom pay calculation so that you feel more comfortable in how you're seeing what's being shown on your end of Tilt? So it's living in a discovery mode, really asking those really keen questions, sometimes breaking the mold or peeling back the layers of the onion so that they feel more comfortable with you, getting to know them because there's a human on the other side of the screen and building that relationship. And tough love sometimes is necessary from them to us, right? But us to them as well.
Well, I think that's a great sign of a true partnership, right? Where you can have open discourse about, being honest with what the other person or entity or, person, the group needs to hear. And to your point, it goes both ways. Is there anything that you personally do in your role as customer success manager to like gauge whether or not your efforts are being successful in like helping a customer transition from their trauma, like help work through it? Like I know you mentioned like sometimes I can tell they're still holding on to that. How do you personally say like, okay, I can see it now. They're starting to like let go. Is there anything that you kind of keep an eye on for that?
Yeah, I think for me personally, it comes back to how can I peel back one layer of the onion each time I have a conversation with them to either share my experiences from how I've had certain situations, circumstances that relate to them. Being able to be authentic and have relatability is so important to managing a relationship, especially in the role that we sit in. We may sometimes not have the ability to do that for every single customer because maybe every single customer doesn't need that from us. But there are, quite a few that potentially need their handheld. And it's up to us to determine how we play an active role in discovery and engaging with that customer of what it is that we're going to do. I will sometimes schedule a one-off call and say, hey, I know we just met this week. Should we put something else on the calendar? I want to ensure you still feel comfortable with the direction that we're going in. And I think we can work together to strategize a plan of action that's going to support you and make you feel more comfortable. Sometimes that's worked really well. I just had a customer, I met with them in the second week of February, and there was some really challenging pieces that they pushed back on us from a feedback perspective. A lot of it came down to, okay, me listening to that hard conversation of just listening and taking notes and being responsive to the fact that this is a listening call. This is not a call for me to show up and talk. This is a call for me to sit down and listen and be aware of the challenges that my customer is facing. And then saying, thank you so much. I appreciate the feedback. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to working, collaborating together to ensuring that we have a successful partnership. I'm going to bring this back to my team to identify how we can make these blockers unblocked and who from my team what I need to bring in to provide support. And then I created a workflow process of saying, here's what we're going to do. We're going to meet every week for the next month. On those calls, we'll have 1 week where it's just training on the product to helping you understand and getting your questions answered. And then the following week is reviewing your leaves, all your active leaves, having the leave success managers, the LSMs on that call, asking questions and engaging in conversation, and then switching back and forth until after a month, and then we'll reassess. Each week asking, how are you feeling today? Do we feel like we made some progress? Is there anything that we missed? Is there anything else that I can support you with? Those check-ins and providing them with notes and the recording of the conversation can change a relationship from a customer that perhaps had a really deep red sentiment to immediately agreeing just in 2 weeks, which is what happened with this customer. And oftentimes, maybe it's not a green, it's a yellow, but you're making progress. I also have had customers that have been indefinitely red. There's nothing I can do, but I'm doing everything I can. And a lot of it has nothing to do with us, particularly as a CSM. Sometimes it's the product. Sometimes it's their employees that are making that relationship feel red, and we're doing everything we can to support them. And sometimes it's the fact that they don't have anybody to support them on their end, and our hands are tied. All of those things are a perfect recipe for how customer success managers play a pivotal role in ensuring that the relationship and the foundation and the trust of a partnership continues, but always looking for ways to say, hey, you know what? I thought of an idea. Let's think together and see if this works for you. Pulling those things out of our hats on a regular basis to ensure that the customer is actually feeling like we're here, that we're not just sitting back waiting for something to happen, or that even though the HR person doesn't engage with the CSM as often, that the leave success manager who is engaging with the employees is actually letting us know how that relationship is going so that we can then share that feedback with the customer. Those two things play such an important role to our customer success, not just from a CSM perspective, but like that is that customer, the HR person's customer themselves.
I'm going to start giving Gabe a red, yellow, or green rating every day, just to keep that in check. That all sounds like, like you said, you're doing everything that you can. And it sounds like we are just going above and beyond. And I'm sure some people who listen to this probably think there's no way it's like that for every customer, but I know that it is. Do you have any insight into what makes Tilt unique or different from maybe our competitors in that regard in the service that we're offering?
Yeah, I think the tech is the first thing that comes to mind. Besides, well, the first thing that always comes to mind is the fact that we have those empathy warriors the people that are on the front lines that are engaging with the employees day after day and ensuring that that customer is in compliance, that the employees in compliance, and that their leaves are being managed correctly. That is the first thing. A simplified tech solution that is easy to access, that provides you with the information front loaded where you don't have to necessarily think too much to ask about it and knowing where to find it. I think that when you have a human and a tech product that works is a great recipe for, even though there's ingredients missing, but that's a great recipe for success, right? I think the other pieces of us collecting that feedback from our customers in that day-to-day conversation or that quarterly call or bi-weekly call to improve the product is key. Customer feedback, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, whether it's about the product or their service, is the only way we continue to improve. As we continue to grow as a company, that obviously puts a much clearer lens as to where do we pivot in certain parts of how we operate. Is that adding more empathy warriors? Is that adding more customer success managers? Does it mean that we need to add more product engineers to service different parts of the products? What are some of the things that we are necessarily not hearing from our customers from a feedback perspective about what would you like to see new, right? Those are things that help us evolve compared to our competitors that make our customers feel much more confident. But it's also feedback and word of mouth, looking at the different industries that we have the most customers in that are being supported, that potentially talk to each other and identifying how we can be more present and visible for them. I don't know that we're doing that now presently, but I think it is a good opportunity for us to do something in that space so it continues to show our growth and evolution. I think the other thing that really makes it successful is that we're able to provide benchmarking data and that we have a leave compliance team that provides annual data around state leaves and leave laws that help our customers feel much more confident in knowing that Tilt's got their back. That if something were to happen in a state where they have employees and their headquarters, let's say, is in California, that Tilt's reviewing the leave laws in that state and providing them with guidance as to what to do to update their benefit policies to ensure that when their employee goes on a leave, that they're able to confidently go out and not feel like something's missing or they're going to miss a step. Those all play a really big role in why we're so successful. The diversity of our team and all the different areas that are supporting the arch that is leave, right? You go out on leave, you come back on leave, and sometimes not for the best reasons. We obviously know at Toast our biggest leave or our biggest leave benefit used is a parental leave. So yay for more babies. But sometimes that caregiver leave can be really hard depending on the situation. And that medical leave can also be really hard depending on the situation. That engagement with the leave success manager and the HR person or the employee is a fundamental piece that makes a lot of our customers feel confident that someone is there to help.